Russia has launched a devastating, unprovoked attack on Ukraine with the sole purpose of destabilising the existing democratically elected government. With the world in a state of flux at the moment, what are the repercussions for us over in Australia? What industries will take advantage of the changing dynamics? And how will business pivot and adapt to the circumstances? I have 3 predictions on what this means for business in Australia, because today we're talking tactics. First prediction, our economy is going to grow. Russia is currently the 11th biggest economy in the world with a 2021 GDP of approximately $1,647,000,000 US dollars and a population of 144 million. Australia is currently the 13th biggest economy in the world with a 2021 GDP of $1,610,000,000 US dollars. Whilst our economies are similar in size, the key difference is that Australia has a much smaller population, just a bit over 25 million. Countries all around the world are currently banding together to introduce further sanctions on Russia, including shutting them out of the global financial market, limiting their ability to export their goods, including oil and gas, coal, rare metals, wheat, and even vodka. Essentially, the world is trying their best to shut down Russia's economy to the point where it can no longer continue to finance their war and their economy comes to a grinding halt. So here's my first prediction. Russia's GDP is going to take a significant hit as a result of these sanctions, which could easily translate into hundreds of millions of dollars worth of financial damage. We've already seen the Russian share market dive bomb by 45% in a single day. Russians are panic buying US dollars, euros, Bitcoin, NFTs, you name it. They are trying to convert their currency into anything other than their own currency, the ruble. The ruble has already fallen by 65% in the last few months and likely has some further pain coming its way. We can expect that the Australian economy is going to leapfrog the Russian economy in the next year in terms of total gross domestic product. What the world needs to prove to Putin and to any other large country who are thinking about throwing their weight around on other smaller neighbours, and I think we all know who they are, is that the boardroom is now mightier than the sword. Wars can now be fought and won in the boardroom, which I think will be the hallmark of wars in the 21st century. Second prediction, another mining boom for Australia. Russia is the biggest country in the world. It benefits from a significant landmass filled with natural resources and farmland, and in a lot of ways there are a lot of similarities with Australia. Australia is also a significant landmass, and our economy is centred primarily on natural resources and agriculture, making up our largest exports. As unfortunate it is to say this, Australia stands to benefit economically from this catastrophe. I certainly don't mean this as any disrespect to the people of Ukraine. In fact, I think it's fair to say that the world is on your side, and I wish for every assistance possible to be provided to the people of Ukraine. The price of freedom is not cheap, but it is a price worth paying. There is going to be an increase in pressure on world energy supplies. We've already seen it with the price of oil over $100 per barrel. I vividly recall footage of people in America wearing hats similar to Donald Trump's "Make America Great Again," except with the slogan, "Make oil $80 a barrel again." The reason why is that a lot of US shale oil is viable at $80 per barrel. This is in stark contrast to the early days of the pandemic when the price of oil went into negative territory. What we are going to see is a lot of this US shale oil is now going to come back online. The price of oil is very closely related to the price of natural gas. When oil prices increase, so do gas prices, and Australia is the largest producer of gas in the world. The demand for gas in recent years has already been high as countries continue to transition from coal to gas and renewable sources. My second prediction is that Australia is going to undergo another mining boom. Commodity prices are extremely healthy, and whilst the scars of the last mining boom and subsequent collapse are still remembered, I think corporate Australia has really evolved from these days and is making better growth decisions. I can say that from my own experience in sourcing office space for mining companies, the key focus they have for finding a new office is really improving the quality of their accommodation and having the best possible fit out in order to attract and retain the right staff. It's all about supporting their workforce to perform at optimal levels, and I think that's a trend that's going to expand to other fields as employers try to attract staff back into the workplace. Third prediction, defence spending is going to go through the roof. A lot of parallels in the media are being drawn between the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the Chinese potentially escalating conflict with Taiwan. I think it's quite telling that whilst the world is piling sanctions on Russia, China's actually done the opposite by easing restrictions on Russian wheat exports. Putin only just returned from a meeting with President Xi in China during the Beijing Winter Olympics. You can only imagine how that meeting went down. What is mildly comforting is that during the UN Security Council meeting, a resolution was voted on condemning the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and China abstained from the vote, even though China has been a long ally of a Putin-led Russia, and they were expected to vote against the motion. The glimmer of hope we can etch out of this is that even China can't bring itself to show outright support of Putin's war. You'd expect that China is happy to sit on the sidelines for now and see how this plays out for Putin. This is going to directly correlate into a massive increase in defence spending in Australia and across the globe. There's been a lot of criticism over recent years on the Australian government's sabre rattling by increasing spending on defence, which was typified by the widespread condemnation of Australia's nuclear submarine deal and new AUKUS partnership and canning of the French submarine deal. My personal opinion on this is that I think this was a great decision by the Australian government, and frankly, I think would have been a decision any government of the day would have made. At the end of the day, Australia is a first world global player. Our troops, our people, they deserve the best. And if that means we need to have the best submarines in the world, the best technology that is completely unrivaled, then that's exactly what we need to do to keep our people safe. I'm expecting a range of new defence contracts to be announced in the coming months, which is likely to translate into further stimulation of the Australian economy. Over the years, I've done many deals with defence contractors and federal government agencies, and I think most people are surprised to hear of the capabilities of Australian ingenuity. Whether it's designing and flying drones, building armoured vehicles, or satellite technology, Australia really has a wealth of knowledge in this sphere. My final message, I'd just like to offer my heartfelt support for the people of Ukraine. They are fighting for their freedom, their sovereignty, and the ability to chart their own destiny. It's my firm belief that even if Putin was successful in overthrowing the Volodymyr Zelensky government and installing their own puppet regime, it simply wouldn't last. The Ukrainian people have already proved their worth and their resolve, and they won't sit idly by and be dictated to by Putin. It would only be a matter of time before an internal resistance was mounted to overthrow the regime anyway. This will be Putin's great undoing. My name is Mel Picos, and we've been talking tactics. If you want to see more predictions on what's happening in Australian business, politics, news, and world events, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button? It's free, and I'd really appreciate the support.